Hey everybody, and welcome back to the next Flappy Ears tutorial video. Today we're going to go ahead and get our character jumping in the scene, so let's go ahead and drag out the pieces we need. So drag out the floor, and drag out the player. Okay, so we want the player to fall, so we're going to need a rigid body onto him. So the 2D rigid body. And then he also is going to have to interact with things, so we also need a 2D collider. And the floor is going to need a collider as well. So the one on the player should be, you gotta resize these things. So 4 by 4, and then let's drag the X center in a little bit. 3 and 1, -1. Alright, that's for the player. You can click apply. Then for the floor, let's go take a look at it. And let's drag this out. It should be about 10, 11, and 2, and then drag it down so that the top of the collider is just below the trees. So like right there. Alright, so now if we hit play, the character should fall, which he does. So now we want to make him jump, so we're going to have to make some scripting, do some scripting. So let's create a folder, call it scripts, and let's create a script and call it player. So one of the issues we're going to have right now is that we need to be able to click on the screen in order to make him jump. And so since he only has a small collider on him and it needs to be this size, we can't just click on the player. So we need to make another object that we can click on that will interact with the player. So let's enter this to 0, 0, and then we're going to add a 2D collider to this. And it's going to be a trigger. So the whole point of this object right now is that it's going to receive mouse events, like click downs, and when it happens it's going to send something to the player to let him know to jump. Alright, so that looks good, and we're going to go ahead and create another script and call it a click shield. And let's rename this object. So drag the corresponding scripts to the ones that share the same name. So jumping is going to be pretty simple in this game. We're just going to have a public void jump, and right now all it's going to do is access the 2D rigid body velocity, and we're going to make this equal to a new vector2 that has some direction in the y, and we're going to make a public float jump height, and we'll set this to 5, and we'll set this to jump height. Okay, so now whenever we call this function, he'll move up about 5 units. And whenever we click, we want to call this function, and so we're going to use the click shield to do this. So we want to have a public player, which is going to be a reference to our player, and then void on mouse down, we want to tell the player to jump. Like that. We can delete the rest of this stuff. Save it. And make sure both scripts are saved. So we have a jump height, and our click shield now has a player parameter. So drag the player into that, click the play button, and now you can jump. So the immediate problem is that you can jump out of off the screen. If you keep clicking, you can just keep going up. So there is a way around this. So let's go back to the player, and we're going to need access to our sprite renderer. So let's go ahead and get a public sprite renderer, s renderer. So we need the renderer to get the bounds of the player. So if s renderer, we need to do a geometry function with the geometry utility, and it's called test AB planes. And so what we're going to do is determine if the player is still on the screen. And so this requires an array of planes, which we're going to use our camera, which is another geometry function right now, to get frustum planes, which is what the camera can see. And it takes a camera, which is going to be camera.main, and it also, not this one, this one also takes a bounds, which is going to use the sRender. Render.bounds. And if this is true, then he is visible on the screen. Otherwise, he is not visible. Oh, I need to hook up the renderer. So we're going to drag the body to this. Alright, click play. So let's get him off the screen, and notice he falls back down. Alright, thanks for watching.